Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for late night coffee talk. I hope you have your coffee. And look, I'm excited. I'm excited to really tuck into this thing tonight because, as was announced on the last coffee talk of the year, uh, this is going to be we're back to weekly, right? So no more, every other week or second and fourth. None of that. Don't have to keep up with that. Just look every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. You know, time permitting, right? Because I do have to travel sometimes, but unless anything major comes up, I'm going to be here with you every single week to answer questions, to talk about what's going on in the TNM, what's happening with TEXIT, what's happening in the world, and I'm excited to be back on a regular weekly schedule. I think it's been far too long. So anyway, very glad that you could join me for the first coffee talk of 2025. And for those of you who are popping in for the first time and wondering what in the world is this guy talking about, let me get some preliminaries out of the way. I'm Daniel Miller. I'm president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and this is Late Night Coffee Talk. This is the place where once a week I take a break from what I'm working on. I come fire up the camera and I take your questions, right? I come in, I have maybe some things I want to talk about, but by and large, you drive the next hour. And so, what I would encourage you to do is if you have questions about the TNM, about TEXIT, about whatever, drop them in the chat or the comments. Matter of fact, let me make a run through that for the first time in 2025. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we go live. And as always, you can drop your questions in the chat. Kara is over there somewhere going through and making sure that they get called out of all the chat and the comments, so I'll be able to see them here in a moment. And look, you can drop us while you're there. Drop us a super chat, right? Let us know that you appreciate us. Help us keep the message of independence out there in front of people. If you're watching on Facebook, which that should be a real big topic of conversation tonight, since they admitted that they were censoring people like us. But if you're watching on Facebook, be sure to like the video and be sure to comment. You can drop your questions in the comments, just like the chat on YouTube, and share it with your friends. Okay. If you are watching on X, which is quickly surpassing pretty much every other, let's see where we are. Yeah, I don't know. X and YouTube are running neck and neck tonight. But if you're watching on X, be sure to drop your questions in the chat and be sure to like it and share it and do all those things as well. Look, you got to help us get the word out there. As much as people say X is a free speech platform, I'm still getting a little shadow banning vibe. Just saying. Can't prove it because I don't see the source code, but I just got a sneaking suspicion because there's definitely some weird things happening over there. Anyway, those are the places. If you have questions, you can drop them in chat or you can do what's on the screen right there. Man, the timing is always impeccable on this. Drop them via email to coffeetalk@thetnm.org and they will pop up over here and I'll bounce back and forth between questions coming from chat and questions coming from email. And of course, if you're on TNM Social, our internal social media network, you can go into the Late Night Coffee Talk group and drop your questions in there. I've got my handy dandy TNM mobile app right here, and I'll be looking for those questions as well. So anyway, that's where we're at. We're here to cover all the bases, whether it's TNM, whether it's TEXIT, whether it's Texas politics in general. Name it and claim it, right? No topic is off limits, and I know that because I do interviews with the media and get asked all kinds of questions all the time. Yes, indeed, it does happen. All right, so let's get down to it. Let's get to your questions. Man, I have a lot that I could talk about tonight, but I'll wait and see if it comes in via the questions because I have a sneaking suspicion. And of course, big shout outs to everyone checking in. Look, if you're watching tonight, drop your county in there, sound off your county, and we'll be going through those tonight. Thank you guys so much. And let's see what we got here. Hey, here's a good one. Let me go ahead and say that. Thank you to Eric Riddle for your $50 super chat. Really do appreciate that. And likewise, folks, if you want to throw some contributions in there, feel free to do so. It's the only thing that's keeping us going, right? You heard me talk about it at the tail end of last year in that final one. You know, the campaigns, all that stuff really sucked all the oxygen out of the room. People were throwing contributions over to the candidates, and I completely understand it. But what it did was it left us severely malnourished going into the legislative session. So we definitely need all the help we can get, folks. Give me just one sec. There we go. Something was weird about my camera here. All right. Anyway, thank you for your super chat, Eric. We do appreciate that. Okay, let's see what questions we got. Tell you what I'm going to do. Let me start off via email while you guys come over here with your questions in the chat. I know I'm not giving you a lot of time, but it happens. Okay, here's one that is not a question, but a really interesting submission. So some of you maybe have met Manny Chapa. Manny and Debbie are both veterans. They are diehard TNMers. They have been in leadership and have worked on organizing Nueces County and a lot of that area down there in the Coastal Bend, down in the Rio Grande Valley. And many of you don't know that Manny is a jazz musician, right? That's his other passion. So he sends this message in. He says, some crazy news to share. I was on an overseas tour with my jazz band and I was wearing my T&M hoodie. I was shocked to have people walk up to me on the street telling me that they knew about the T&M. I was stopped in Brussels, Belgium, and Luxembourg, and people actually took pictures with me. One man who was a retired world history professor had read TEXIT. They also knew Dr. Kortrup. It's a very small world when you're talking about freedom. We are already winning. Manny, thank you so much for submitting that, sending that in. That is a phenomenal piece of news. And I think it should be quite encouraging to everyone out there to, look, people are looking to us for leadership. They are looking to us to set an example for what an independent-minded people can do. And I think Manny's story also tells you something else too, which is, look, when you're getting ready to go out and engage the public, you need to hoist the colors. You need to fly it proudly. And be a beacon to those that are looking for what it is that we're doing right here with the T&M. So thank you so much for that. All right. Let's get back over here. Oh, yes. Okay, so here we go. Man, I'm again, thank you for that super chat there, Eric. All right. This is from the Crutch Bite. What is the status of the speaker fight? Next week, they will gavel the session in, and we will have an answer one way or the other the first day, because that's what they're going to do, is they're going to elect the speaker in the House. So, the status is pretty much exactly where it was, although there were some developments, interestingly enough, right before we came on the live stream. I was shocked to see, I guess it was a couple hours ago, that the Republican Party of Texas and Abraham George had both posted that State Rep Cody Harris had filed a TEC complaint alleging that the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, Abraham George, a Texas First pledge signer, was essentially guilty of criminal coercion for telling these guys, look, if you don't vote the way you're supposed to vote, aka vote with the caucus, then we're gonna campaign against you in the next election. Well, Cody filed a complaint with the Texas Ethics Commission alleging this criminal coercion. I mean, I guess that's the only way that I can put it. But the copy, and you know what? I'll see if I can find it and put it up on the screen. But that is a brand new development. Essentially, what Representative Harris is saying is that if you go to a legislator and you say, look, if you don't vote in the way that you're expected to vote, then I'm gonna campaign against you. He's saying that that's criminal, right? And so while I'm guess he thinks that somehow this is just kind of isolated to Abraham George. I mean, is he going to arrest everybody? Is he going to file criminal complaints on everybody, or is it just the Republican Party of Texas, right? So you want to talk about somebody out kicking their coverage here. I'm going to tell you, Cody Harris made a huge mistake with this. It's just pouring gas on the fire. And of course, we know, I don't know, I did not mention this, but Cody Harris has come out in support of Dustin Burrows and is rejecting the path that they all agreed to, which is let the caucus decide who the speaker is going to be. So long story short, if you want to know what the status is Burrows guys are doubling down. And this represents to me a significant escalation in that fight, right? I mean, obviously you've got the Republican Party of Texas saying, look, we're going to enforce the rules. And the party's rules, as decided by the party at the convention, are no Democrat chairs and respect the will of the caucus. And what has happened is you've got Dustin Burrows and, some of these other state reps that are essentially flaunting that, very, establishment types, definitely anti-TEXIT types, that are basically sticking a middle finger up to the voters that, the Republican Party delegates at convention. And this has obviously prompted the Republican Party of Texas to let them know that there are, by the rules, consequences for violating the will of the party for which they wear the team jersey, right? I mean, that's a legitimate thing to do. It's like, look, if you do this, understand there will be consequences. And by the way, here's what those consequences are. And that's not Abraham George saying that. That's what the party as an organization has said. And so, I don't think anyone could argue that Abraham George was escalating. He's just basically saying, look, this is what we're supposed to do. This is what the organization, this is what the party does. But Cody Harris going and filing a TEC complaint, especially, I think we're close to almost at the meeting, the meeting of the Sunset Commission on the Texas Ethics Commission. It was undergoing sunset. And I think that meeting is like in a few days, maybe. Anyway, having this happen is essentially Cody Harris weaponizing the Texas Ethics Commission, weaponizing it to try to bludgeon Abraham George. I mean, it's to the point that the party put out a statement and Abraham George put out a statement and said, look, if I got to go to prison for supporting free speech, then, that sucks, but so be it. I respect that. I respect that a whole lot. And what I don't respect is Cody Harris not respecting his voters, right? Not respecting the party for whose jersey that he wears, right? If he doesn't want to be a Republican, he can take that jersey off and be an independent or go be a Democrat or go be a libertarian. I mean, he's got options. But to weaponize the system to try to suppress that voice of the grassroots is it's a bit beyond the pale. So I expect some fallout. I really expect there to be some significant fallout from this. Like I said, this just happened, from my understanding, a few hours ago, and so it's going to continue to develop. But it's really going to be. I think it takes the animosity that has developed ahead of the speaker's vote, the gavel in. I think it takes it to a whole new level. I mean, I think it's just massive. So we'll see. We'll see if it plays out as big in real life as it does in my head. But I suspect that's going to be a pretty ugly one over the next several days. So anyway, thank you for that question. Okay, let's go over here. Lest I be accused of not being balanced. Ooh, okay. This is an interesting one. All right, this is from Steve. Steve says, I'll truncate this down a bit because there's no way I can read all this. I understand that the most important folks to the T&M are the ones that have the enthusiasm, drive, time, and willingness to participate in promoting Texas independence. If we have to call them and beg, remind, and coerce them into participating, they may not be leadership material. Okay, true. It would seem to me that leadership requires a certain amount of experience and intellect. So that being said, who would we like to have in county leadership? And he gives a bunch of lists. And he says, in your opinion, okay, now we're getting down to the real question. What does the county dream team look like? Okay, this is I think this is a really interesting question. And I'm gonna take it because I just think it's a good question. Here's you asked for my opinion, so this is my opinion. For those who need some context about this, let me explain. So the T&M is organizing. We've spent the last 10 months essentially converting over to a county leadership structure. So that means that we're organizing county by county. And as of last count, I think we're up to 55 or 56 counties that are currently organizing. We've got our first crop ready to launch. I think I'm going to have a call with leaders from 10 of the first flight of counties that are going to come out of the gate, coming up at a little bit, I think in a week or two. But bottom line is, if you don't know, that's what he's talking about. And so the counties, how they're organized, they have a leadership team, right? And that leadership team is comprised of dyed-in-the-wool Texas nationalists, right? They're members of the organization, and they go through a lot of training, and they will tell you that there is a lot of training involved in this. But that's what I think Steve is asking. Who makes the ideal? So now let's get down to my opinion. Now that you have the context, here's my opinion on this. As someone who got involved in the fight for Texas independence when I was quite young, okay, so let's see, that was 96, I was born in 73, you do the math, okay. You know, I did not know what I did not know, but what I did was I learned. And what I have found is that anyone who is willing to learn, to objectively measure their skills in the areas that are required for leadership and activism and things of that nature, it doesn't matter what their background is. Anyone can be an absolute just superstar when it comes to advancing the cause of Texas independence. If they're willing to learn, if they're coachable, that is really the key. I mean, none of us were born knowing how to do all these things, right? I mean, I didn't. I mean, I wasn't. This was all something that came as a part of study and experience and all those things. But if you're coachable and you're willing to leverage what skills you have now and amplify those and sort of dovetail them into what is required for leadership and organization, then your background doesn't matter. But you have to be willing, right? You have to be willing to do that. And so there is a certain passion and a passion to excel and a willingness to hone yourself into being exceptionally effective. And it takes discipline. The more discipline you have, the shorter the learning curve is, right? But as long as you're dedicated and say, look, I understand that independence is the thing, right? It's not this other stuff. Independence is the thing. And so I'm willing to make the commitment to do whatever I have to do to be effective at advancing us to the goal of independence. If you're willing to do that, then it doesn't matter. So in my opinion, the county leadership dream team is made up of people that have a willingness to win. Look, there is no test that has been designed that can measure the heart of a person. It hasn't. But that being said, if they have the heart of a champion, all the rest of that stuff will come. The skills, the experience, everything else, as long as they're willing to get out there, it works. I hate to use a cliche, but it works if you work it, right? That's the way that this is. So, Steve, I don't know if that really answers your question, but you asked for my opinion, and that's what my opinion is. And so you get what you get. Okay. Okay. That's a good one, though. Thank you for that. Okay. Interesting one. I knew this was going to come. See, this is why I held off on talking about the things I wanted to talk about, because I knew that they'd come kick that dog, right? So here's the question. Has TNM ever had any interaction with the Greenland independence movement? So backstory for those of you who have not been paying attention is Donald Trump has been making noise about buying Greenland from Denmark, okay, which is interesting, right? And I've got feelings about that in some ways. So let me just, now that you understand, let me just get back to the question, because I'm trying to self-edit here, or I will go down a massive rabbit trail. But here's the thing. The question was, have we had any interaction with the Greenland independence movement? So it's important for people to understand what Greenland's status is. Greenland is essentially a protectorate of Denmark. Denmark claims ownership of it. They have minimal representation. There's a population of about 50,000 people in Greenland. I mean, there's some strategic importance to the West over Greenland, but the people that live in Greenland have had a somewhat good, I mean, I'm not going to call it strong, but a fairly strong independence movement. There has been at least an independence bent to their movement to Greenland, particularly the political parties there for many years. Matter of fact, little known fact, the first article that we ever posted on the TNM website that was not explicitly about Texas independence was about the Greenland independence movement. Okay. And talking about that, and hell, I think it's still on the website. If you go there and go way back, you're liable to find it. That being said, we've got a whole dossier on the political parties there in Greenland. There's obviously more than one. Some are pro-independence, some are not. But this is this whole issue with Greenland has, in the discussion about Canada as a 51st state, these things have all sort of touched a raw nerve for me. And some people that are watching tonight may not care for some of what I'm about to say. So if you hold a good opinion of me and you want to hang on to it, you may want to tune out now, because I'm about to, I think, go off. So here's the thing. If all of this has really touched a bit of a raw nerve for me. And Kara can tell you, she came out, some of you know that I work out there in the Garage Mahal some, but she came out there, and I was literally just sitting there drinking coffee, kind of staring into space, and she asked what was going on. And I said, the more I think about this discussion about Greenland and Canada's the 51st state, I'm really angry about it. And I could not put my finger on exactly why I was so angry about it. And man, I sat there drinking the coffee and just contemplating what might have set me off so hard about it. And I'm going to tell you, really, if I'm going to distill it down, what it boiled down to. For many, many, many years, I mean, this even predates my involvement in Texas independence, back in 1996. But I became very aware that there was, of the globalist movement, okay? And part of the this movement of globalism, and if you have not seen the video that we have about nationalism versus globalism and how globalism is really a worldview and all these things, you need to go watch a little short YouTube video. It's on our YouTube channel. But anyway, it's not, globalism is an enemy to sovereignty. It's an enemy to freedom. It is tyranny personified. It is a dystopian nightmare if brought to fruition. And so, part of that whole globalist dream to bring about, the thing that George Bush, old man Bush referred to as the New World Order in his speech, that was a very specific thing that he was referring to. It was not just some abstract concept. I mean, it's what they want. They wanted to shuffle the global order. And what it really deals with is the consolidation of power. Much like we resist the consolidation of state sovereignty, the erosion of state sovereignty, the consolidation of that power in Washington, D.C., the ultimate goal is the consolidation of power into the hands of an establishment and an elite. That's just the reality. And they make no bones about it. I mean, I'm not spewing some weird conspiracy theory. I mean, they have been upfront about this. And for the globalists to win, you and I have to lose. We have to lose our identity. We have to lose our sovereignty. We have to lose our freedom. It is a global Soviet style system to the max. It's like you turn the dial up to 11, right? It is the worst possible thing you could imagine. And it's not this touchy-feely stuff about, well, let's remove trade barriers. I'm down for removing trade barriers. I'm not down with losing my inalienable rights so that you guys can, have fewer trade restrictions from country to country. I'm not down with that, but they sell it as a package deal. It all comes part and parcel of one thing. And a stepping stone to that consolidation of power has always been the discussion of the formation of a North American Union. I can remember in the 1990s, absolutely losing my ever-loving mind. Because there was the belief that NAFTA was going to be a stepping stone to this. And they're talking, this discussion about centralizing currencies and eliminating, these national borders and doing these things. And I mean, it was a total freak out moment. I mean, guys, that's what part of the plan is. It is a stepping stone. You consolidate regionally so that it becomes much easier to consolidate globally. That is the plan. That's what globalists want. And now, as they're on their last gasp, as we have seen this explosion of self-governing independent nation states and this idea of freedom and sovereignty spreading around the world, and we're watching globalism get rocked back on its heels, here I am having to watch Kevin O'Leary giving interviews on Fox News or wherever it is, talking about he's having conversations with Trump about what it would look like to consolidate Canada and the United States into one union, sharing one currency, and then giving up Bank of Canada and taking on the Federal Reserve when we don't want the daggone Federal Reserve. They're talking about consolidating and swallowing it up. And this discussion about Panama, where's Panama? Panama is south of Mexico. What does that look like? Well, I could understand the reasons the United States as a system would want to re-secure the Panama Canal. But when you take the Panama Canal discussion and you take the Canada discussion and you take the Greenland discussion, that map looks an awful lot like the ones the globalists were pushing called the North American Union. And I'm going to tell you, that just is one of the worst things possible. If you think we got it bad now, if you think it's bad for us right now, bad enough that we want to leave the union, imagine what happens when your 40 electoral votes that you have right now that you think, well, at least we got those, become subsumed, because it won't just be Greenland and it just won't be the provinces of Canada, which, by the way, I'm sure the Quebecois and the Albertans will have some objection to joining up with the United States. Of course, after they dump Trudeau and AKA, Fidel Castro Jr., once they get rid of him, right? I mean, they may have something to say about it. But what's next? I mean, are we going to have DC as a state? Are we going to have Puerto Rico as a state? I mean, what's there to prevent Cuba? And all of these things continue to dilute what we've got here in Texas, and they don't add 1 cent to your bottom line, right? So the people that I've talked to that voted for Donald Trump said, look, we want to fix the border and immigration. We want to do something about inflation. We don't want to have to go float a second mortgage if we're lucky enough to have a first one to go buy gas and groceries. What they didn't ask for was a consolidation into the North American Union. That's not what they asked for, but yet here we are. So, you know, I have, like I said, I have felt a certain way about this, and I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it in the least, because I see the same people, right? These same people making excuse. Well, you know, it's 4D chess. You know, he's just joking. He's just winding these guys up. This crap's not funny. You know, if you think the potential for consolidation into a North American Union is a joke, then you haven't been paying attention. The centralization of power and the surrender of our sovereignty is not funny. It's not hilarious. It's not a joke. It's not a toy. It's not something to be trifled with. So, no, I mean, we have not been in official communication with the people there in the independence movements in Greenland, but you know, they're gonna do what they do. And if they see some mechanism out of Denmark, which I've been wholly supportive of Greenland's independence, much like I'm supportive of Puerto Rico's independence, much like I'm supportive of New Hampshire's independence and California's independence, and any state that wants to leave. But to come in and try to do this thing, which is looking oddly like the North American Union, we won't support that. We never will. That's going the wrong direction. Okay. If you have questions, you can email them. For those of you just joining us, coffeetalk@dtnm.org, right there at the bottom of the screen. You can drop your questions in chat on YouTube, and Kara's over there running interference and throwing them in the queue for me. You can comment on the video on Facebook, and you can also comment on the chat on X. Be sure you do that. Okay, so we got that. So anyway, that's the answer to your question. Let's get down here to email. Trying to be balanced. Try to be balanced, guys. All right. Okay, that was not a question that came in via email. So, emailers, you just lost a turn. Okay. Oh, looks like I just answered that one. Anything you want to say about Trump's rhetoric on Canada and Greenland? Is that a wind up? Did you post that before I went on my tirade or after? Because it almost feels like a wind up. No, just kidding. Anyway, thank you so much. I think I covered that. Okay, here we go. John Murdoch says, can you publish copies of the Texas Constitution, and when independence comes, would you change it? This reminds me of a funny story. So when I was running for lieutenant governor, yeah, it's the same time as the gubernatorial races, and you know, so we got to meet a lot of cool people on the campaign trail. But you know, Don Huffines, former state senator, was one of the people that we got to see an awful lot, and I mean, we crossed paths a ton. But interestingly enough, one of the things that Don Huffines would do is he would reach in his pocket, he'd take out a copy of the pocket Constitution. You guys have seen those. They're little booklets about yay big, right? And you know, he'd hold it up, and you know, it was part of his stump speech, and he'd talk about it. And I would have people come to me afterwards, and they would say, "Hey, you know, why don't we get a pocket? Why don't we get a pocket size copy of the Texas Constitution?" And I would just laugh and be like, "How big is your pocket? You know, how big of a pocket do you have? I mean, are we talking like really baggy pants, like MC Hammer, like Aladdin is about to get the genie out of the lamp kind of pants? Is that the kind of pockets you're talking about? Because that thing is big, right? It's big. But you know, it's you know, how big is your pocket? It's just what it reminded me of. But anyway, so John says, can you publish copies of the Texas Constitution? You can get a copy of the Texas Constitution if you want it on paper, but it's available online all the time. The state the legislature has a copy of it, along with the statutes and everything else. It's fully searchable online. No need for us to make it available when they've done it for free. And I'm not sure if this is the case or not. But many years ago, I seem to remember that everyone had the ability to request a copy of a comb-bound Constitution from maybe their legislators. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but I remember that was a thing at one point. So to the second part of your question, when independence comes, would you change it? We've actually discussed the idea of constitutional changes on the live stream an awful lot. There are articles about it on the TNM website. We've got a ton of research proposals that we have done for the post-TEXIT transition, the post-vote transition, dealing with constitutional changes. We've talked about in the transition the 4 things that have to be determined after a yes vote, or constitutional changes, statutory changes, international covenants, treaties, and agreements, and then negotiated issues between us and the federal government. So constitutional changes are always going to be on the table for this, because the Constitution we have now is the Constitution of the state of Texas. And while it is adequate for a constitutional republic structurally and functionally, there are some things that are missing that we will need to constitutionally authorize by virtue of our status as a sovereign, independent nation state. Things that we have to do as a nation state that we cannot do as part of the union. So one of the examples that I use all the time is, we will have to constitutionally authorize foreign affairs, right? Like, we have a Secretary of State, just like the United States has a Secretary of State. The difference is ours doesn't deal with diplomacy and foreign relations. Ours deals with our elections and other things like that. I mean, there's a few other things that the Secretary of State here in Texas does. But, we have to constitutionally authorize that. And then from those constitutional changes, we have to enact statutes to basically put those things into place. So by just the very nature of the process, there will have to be constitutional changes. I mean, you're not going to have a self-governing independent nation whose chief executive is called a governor. It's just not going to be that way. So we'll want to change that name in the Constitution. Probably not going to continue to refer to the Texas Legislature as the Texas Legislature. It will probably get renamed the Texas Congress, or whatever we want to call it, right? So there will be those changes. Other than that, I have always held that major substantive changes, like things that are being talked about, for example, right now, and you will actually probably see legislation about this in this session. Things like trying to fix the imbalance between urban counties and rural counties when it comes to statewide elections or constitutional amendments. There has been a lot of discussion about a Texas-style electoral college comprised of either Senate districts or counties in relation to statewide elected office. So you may see those proposals, but I've always essentially said, look, if there's not enough popular momentum to get those across the finish line right now, then the best time to do that will be post-TEXIT, when we open all of these things up for discussion. So anyway, John, thank you for your question. All right, time check, see how we're doing here. Okay. All right, let's take another one. There we go. I'm going to put that up there, even though it didn't wind up in the queue, because I just think it's funny. I think it's funny. Mac, can I nominate myself as the first Texas ambassador to the Kingdom of Hawaii? Look, people can nominate themselves for whatever they want to, right? My belief has always been that that it's going to be the leaders of the TNM that are essentially going to set themselves up as the experts in this. We're not just making independence happen. We're in the process of building a nation. And so consequently, our people are going to be the ones that are best poised to do a lot of these things. And, there'll be a lot of people that come over from the other system too. But my point here is that, think like an ambassador. If you wanted to nominate yourself as the first Texas ambassador to the Kingdom of Hawaii, one of the first ways that you could begin to make that happen is work with our international engagement folks, right? Go volunteer for, one of the positions for international engagement. And what you'll find out is, you start kind of building your ambassadorial chops. I mean, it's essentially a shadow State Department, but we deal with non-state actors. We deal with other independence movements. And so, learn the ropes of diplomacy and outreach and international engagement and things of that. I mean, that you can do that. So anyway, although that didn't make the queue, I had to go grab it. I love this. Billy says, do an extra hour tonight, Dan. Look, I'm here until the sands of the hourglass run out or until my coffee runs out, whichever comes first. See, I love this. Everybody's nominating themselves to be ambassadors for things. Look, you can do whatever. Don't go around calling yourself the ambassador to these places. That went very poorly for somebody back in the 90s, is my understanding. But my suggestion is, if you are serious about international engagement, go connect with our international engagement team. Volunteer. They need all the help they can get over there. Okay. Question. I like that. You prefaced it with the word question, so it was easy to spot. Although it is so long, I mean, if there were any more words to this, it would come up to here and it would be Kilroy, right? It says, if TNM got behind or supported an unpopular federal law, probably never going to happen, and supported its nullification, could this strategy grow our membership? So let me just kind of, hopefully I'm understanding your hypothetical here. So there's an unpopular federal law, and the TNM comes out and says, we wholeheartedly support, let's just say, some gun ban. Okay. And so you're saying that a federal law is banning some guns, and the TNM should come out and say, we support it, and then turn around and say, we're totally going to work to nullify this. I don't know that that's going to grow our membership. I think it would confuse people. I think it would make them think that we were not particularly focused on independence as our mission. What would grow our membership more than anything else is for every one of our supporters to just go over there and execute a membership for $4. That would grow our membership. Just having our supporters just do that one thing. Just if you get our emails or you participate in our live streams or you do any of those things, just go over and become a member. $4. $4. Just saying. And if you want to do that, go to member.tnm.me. Okay, let's comb through here. Seriously, you're right. I take a sip. Why are you guys wanting to force feed me coffee? No, look, and I'm reacting to some of the things in chat. I would stay on here. I'd stay on here for another hour. But remember, I break from work to do this. So I take a break. I get to a stopping point. I come do this, and then I get off here and get right back to work. A lot of you guys don't know that, I help. Part of what I do is I help run the web development team in the TNM, and that's just a function of my day job. What I actually get paid to do is, I'm a technology consultant. I do tech work. But my meeting with the TNM developers is at midnight every night. So I'm always going to be up till midnight, 7 days a week. I'm typically up way past that, but that's when my meeting starts with those guys. So, okay, let's see what we got here. Man, thank you guys so much for checking in too. All right. Here's an interesting question. What are your views on mass deportations? Um, I mean, here's where I'm at on the particular issue. This is not the official position of the organization, um, but I don't really have any particular views on it because I haven't seen it happen yet. And logistically speaking, I don't know how it's going to happen. But should they happen? Look, here's the bottom line. If you are here, I look at Texas like I look at my house. Okay, if you come to my home, my suggestion is you go to the front door and you knock or you ring the doorbell. If you come in through a window and I catch you, I'm probably going to give you an injection of leticillin. If I happen to walk through my living room and you're sitting on my couch and you neither knocked nor rang my doorbell, but somehow you snuck in and have decided to sleep on my couch, I'm probably going to beat you with Lucille. Okay. So, you know, but you're going to be removed from my house. Okay. This is the way that I think it's important for people to kind of look at your nation state in the same way. Look at it like your house. Would you want somebody to come into your house uninvited? What if they forced their way in? Or what if they snuck in and started occupying one of your bedrooms? What would you do? Well, you would want them removed from your house, and you would be within your rights to do so. Well, if you're within your rights to do so, to remove them from your house, why is a nation state, which has sovereignty, because if you don't have borders, then you don't have a nation. You don't have a nation state. Why is it wrong for a nation state to say, this is who can be here and this is who can't? And if you're here and you're not supposed to, we're going to remove you. There's nothing wrong with that. The people that say that there's something wrong with that are essentially globalists. They're the ones that are really exacerbating this. I mean, you have to understand, one of the goals of globalism is the erasure of national borders, right? The destruction of national identity. Borders, they don't like national borders. They despise the borders of a nation state. Globalists hate those sorts of things. And so it's really a globalist mindset to try to erase those borders and to prevent nation states from exercising their sovereignty on who can and who cannot be there. Start viewing your nation state as your house, and you use that as your analogy, and it will clear up a lot of things. Oh, see, I knew. Thank you for the question. I knew if I waited long enough, somebody would kick the dog. You read my mind. I mean, I was waiting. I was about to go rogue and literally just start talking about Facebook and Meta. So Bobcat, if that is your real name. Bobcat says, any thoughts on Meta moving some operations to Texas? Well, I have thoughts. This is not a shock because Meta had already put put data centers here in Texas. They already had offices in Austin. We know for a fact that they had to hire some attorneys here in Texas because, if you'll recall, we sued Meta for social media censorship under a Texas law. And, you know, they wanted to vigorously deny it. No, what they wanted to do was they wanted to play shenanigans, right? So let me just kind of, for those of you brand new to this story, Texas passed an anti-censorship law that applied to major social media platforms. They passed it a couple of sessions back. And as rightly pointed out, they left a loophole in it on purpose that you could drive a Mack truck through that essentially made the bill useless. The piece of legislation was effectively useless because of the baked-in loophole that they left, which deals with forum selection, which allowed the social media companies to say that if that's fine, have your law, but if you want to sue us, you got to come to San Francisco to sue us. So it put a Texan in the position of having to go to California to San Francisco, California, in a federal court to sue over a Texas law. Well, that makes no sense at all. But come to find out, it was a poison pill that was baked in, and I won't get into my criticisms. I've made those very public and very clear. But the objection here that Meta made was that ultimately, in their minds, they never engaged in censorship. What they did wasn't censorship. And here we go. All of a sudden now, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, they're crap canning their fact checkers who have lied about us, right? We had the fake fact checks. That whole scam. Go back and look at some of the archives on Late Night Coffee Talk. Hear me talking about that nonsense. They're firing their fact checkers, those third-party slush fund money places they can, the money hustle from the progressives, the fact checkers. Those guys are going to be gone. They're wondering if they're going to be able to survive. I hope not. I hope they starve, right? Because of all the damage they've done to people. Meta has fired, what's the guy's name? Nick Clegg, right? Former leader of the Lib Dems from the UK. He's gotten rid of him and replaced him on the board with Dana White, right? He's basically trying to do everything he can for Meta to not be held accountable for what they did. And so now they come out. Now, remember, for years they said, we're not censoring anybody. We're not going to censor anybody. We're not doing that. That's a lie. So he comes out and he says, guys, so sorry for censoring you. And by the way, we're moving some of our operations to Texas. And that's supposed to make it all better, right? I'm not buying it. Fair weather friends, him and Bezos and some of these guys are all fair weather friends. Now that all of their dirty deeds are about to come to light, all the crap they did, all of the persecution they did for years and years and years is about to come to light. They're basically, oh, hey guys, it's the same thing with all the, the pandemic stuff that people talked about. Same kind of situation. People did things and said things and behaved in certain ways that are frankly criminal. And the fact of the matter is that, when people do really dastardly things like that, they used to hold tribunals for those sorts of things and war crime tribunals and, whatever it is. I'm telling you, I hate to think that these guys are going to be able to escape accountability. But in my heart of hearts, I know that the current system is so corrupt that they will absolutely skate. They won't be held accountable for anything. They'll be able to be like, oh, my bad. That, and then move on. So I have some thoughts about Meta moving their operations to Texas. None of them good, but I will reserve those because this is a bit of a family show. And I should not say things like that in the earshot of children. Okay, man, we're sliding in here. I am going to wind up going overtime. You're not getting a full hour, but you will get some overtime probably. Excuse me. Alex asks, does having a Republican president and administration affect support for Texas independence? Short answer is no, it does not. Long answer is this. I've talked about this on previous Q&As for Coffee Talk. There's an article on the TNM News site about this. I wrote a commentary about it. Anyone who has, and I'll tell you that there are a lot of people that despise what we do, that were clicking heels when Trump got elected, saying that it would mean the death of us. What that does, though, is it betrays the fact that they would think that. It betrays the fact that they don't fundamentally understand the issues that are driving support for Texas independence. And I will tell you, we dealt with this back in 2016 when Trump got elected. All these people are like, oh, you guys are just going to evaporate and disappear. It's not what happened at all. We grew at the same, if not higher rate during the Trump administration than we grew during the Obama administration. You have to understand that support for Texas independence is not contingent upon who is getting their mail delivered to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's just not. And so it tells me a lot of times when people say these sorts of things that that they fundamentally misunderstand what is driving Texas independence. They also fundamentally don't understand what is driving the problem. If they think the election of a single person is going to somehow change the trajectory of the Titanic, you know, it's like if you're in the Titanic and it's so into the water that the deck chairs are sliding off into the water, and then you say, guys, good news, we've elected a brand new captain. I'm not going to be excited about that. If the ship is taking on water and all of my crap is sliding into the North Atlantic, I don't care who wears the captain's hat. I just want to know how to get off of this ship. Okay. That's kind of the common sense thing. And that's honestly, if you want to just get down to brass tacks, that's what's driving so many people. You know, what the first Trump administration showed us was how willing, how immune to reform the federal system was. I mean, think about everything they did to cut this guy's legs out from under him. They went from doing their crap in secret to just doing it out in the open. Then you had 4 years of the Biden administration where they just continued to expose themselves. I mean, the mask wasn't slipping, the mask was off, and they're super desperate. And now we've had a change in who's going to occupy the White House, but ultimately the fundamental rot is still there. You can't put a new coat of paint on a rotten piece of wood and expect to use that as the load-bearing wall in your house, right? You can't do it. And so this idea, I think from the standpoint of Texas independent supporters, the ones that I have talked to, they feel like we slid into November, and I don't think anyone was ready for what would have happened if Kamala Harris would have gotten elected, right? Or if, you know, they hadn't pushed out, you know, President Peepaw, and you know, and he had run. They just, I don't think anybody thought that the world was ready for that to take place. And so the people that I've talked to have felt a sense of relief that now they can sort of really gird up and begin this process to really work to get us ready for independence. For me, personally, this has always been the deal. I mean, I don't care what the composition of Congress is. I don't care who's in the White House. I don't care, you know, who's the latest black robe tyrant sit in the Supreme Court. I mean, I don't care because ultimately every single day we're making progress and moving toward independence. And some things will speed it up and some things will slow it back down to the normal pace, but we're on track and we're on pace to get these things done. So independence is a fixed point in the future. It will happen. It's inevitable. The speed with which we get there is completely contingent upon y'all. I can't wave a magic wand and make it go any faster. I am one person. You know, it's really up to us. And if we believe what we say we believe, which is all political power is inherent in the people, that is the way that it should be. You will be the ones who dictate the speed of this. And if you want it done faster, then you will work more and you will work harder. You will sacrifice more. You will donate more. You will bring other people in and encourage them to do so. You will encourage people around you to work faster and to work harder and to pour everything they can to build this brand new nation. You are in control of the accelerator pedal. Okay. Look at that. Thanks for the question, Alex. All right. I'm going to go one more sweep over here and see if it's just going to be more comments. I appreciate you guys sending comments via email, but really looking for questions. Okay. Sorry, I just scrolled through chat and I saw John Ruiz talk about asking about the Canada and Greenland thing. See, you guys, this is kind of a wind up. I just know it. Okay. I'm looking, yo. Let's see what we got here. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're good. Look at that. I came in right on time. I love it. Okay, guys. Well, look, if that's what you got, then I'm going to wrap up. Right. The sands of the hourglass, my friends, are the questions, and so I think we've taken all we can for tonight. But if I did not get to your question, some of them I will go through after this, and some of them actually wind up as articles and get answered on the TNM news site. So, if you haven't been over there lately, you need to go check out news.tnm.me, the place for all things TNM and TEXIT. You're going to want to check it out. A reminder, if you have not already pledged your support for the work of the TNM, head over to tnm.me/vote and register your support. But look, if you want to do one better, become a member, right? Go to member.tnm.me and join. Pledging your support, that's free. But if you want to help make this thing happen, $4. Don't make me say it over and over. $4. If independence is not worth $4 to you, then I don't know if you want it bad enough, right? $4. Okay. Additionally, let me remind you guys, if you have not already, if you're a business owner and you are a supporter of the TNM, head over to the TNM's business directory at business.tnm.me. Register your business today. Already have a ton of businesses listed over there. And my understanding is we're about to have an official launch of this thing. Although it's up, it's functional, it's ready to go. It's the business directory. It's all these pro independence businesses that you can do business with. I think a launch would be pretty awesome for that. Additionally, I have been, let me remove this little crawler down here because I want to talk to you about this. I have mentioned this the last couple of times, but I was actually surprised that more people did not know about this. So I've been talking about memberships, something that people that has really escaped everyone, and we've announced it multiple times. So I'm going to share it with you tonight. Donations that you make at donate.tnm.me count toward membership credit. So if you go over there right now and donate $25, not only is that going to be a $25 donation, but that's going to count towards $25 of membership credit. You're going to get membership out of that. So just bear in mind, if you're not down for the $4.21 a month or whatever it is, and you want to just kind of throw a one-time thing at, go to make a donation and understand that all of that will be applied to membership credit. I think, honestly, it's one of the coolest things we've done in a while. And also, look, if you have not already downloaded the TNM mobile app, do so. Go to tnm.me/app. You do have to be a registered supporter. You can download it, but to be able to log in, you do have to be a registered supporter. So be sure that you do that first. And you know what your username, well, your email and your password are. But do it, man. This is our own internal social network. You're going to get grouped in your county, in your House district, in your Senate district. You're going to check your interests. You're going to get grouped with other people over there. Go over there and connect with other independent supporters today. Okay, my friends, that looks like a wrap. Yeah, I mean, it looks like we're done for the night. So, look, I want to thank you guys so very much. I'm glad to be back. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy 2025. I've never been so happy to see a year in my rearview mirror as I am right now. See 2024 in that rearview mirror, but I am so happy for 2025. I mean, it's not that 2024 was bad. It's just it was a rough year for a lot of us. So I'm glad. I mean, we've got a lot of opportunities ahead of us in 2025. We've got a lot of work to do, but a tremendous amount of opportunities, and I'm just so happy that you're here with us. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'm very excited to be back on a weekly schedule doing this, and so excited that you guys continue to push to make it happen. So with that, my friends, I do believe that we are going to sign off on this. So I will leave you with the words that I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
If you feel you've no real voice, and at the polls there's no good choice, and the best is a lesser evil, just who? And it is time for a real change. Instead of voting more of the same, only one solution restores the power to you. When Texan rights have been impaired, and it's gone on for many years, there's only one way left to correct it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for TEXIT. July the 4th, we celebrate an exit of the United States from a British Empire that denied them representation. Yeah, and history repeats, they say. Britain's past became their fate when a Brexit vote restored Britain's status as a nation. When the Constitution is ignored, state sovereignty thrown overboard, and all attempts to restore it have been rejected. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for TEXIT. So high, no limits seem to apply. Is this the future we want for our Lone Star? What if tax dollars stayed in our state and Texans had the final say? Well, that's a future I'd be happy to vote for. You see corruption in D.C. or want a real tax decrease, there's only one solution left, you guessed it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for TEXIT. Texas foreign policy? Are you tired of a government that acts so reckless? You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for TEXIT. Do you love this Lone Star state? Have countless reasons why it's great. Perhaps you believe that God blessed it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas. Go pledge your vote today for TEXIT. Sign up at TEXITnow.com.